Welcome, everyone, to the RedState Weekly Briefing. It is October 5th. I'm your host, Aaron Gardner. I'm the managing editor of RedState.com. If this is your first time ever joining us at the RedState Weekly Briefing, let me go ahead and introduce you to everyone who we have around the table. We got Thomas LaDuke from FTR Radio running the show, being our producer, making sure we stay on time.
I'm drinking tea.
Yeah, Gold Peak Tea. He's also in charge of trying to get us sponsors, so there you have that, Gold Peak Tea. We should probably be pimping Russia's tea, don't you think? Shouldn't we be pimping 2F by tea?
Gold.
I think that's probably the better strategy for sponsors. Also with us, as usual, we have Joe Cunningham, who is a front page contributor at RedState and also does the horse race analysis for us here on the RedState Weekly Briefing. It is October.
Oops. That was a bad loop. Sorry about that.
Somebody had their loop going there for a moment.
Woo, boy.
Caleb's muted right now, and he's adjusting his camera and giving us a nice profile. It's beautiful. But Caleb is with us. He provides us with a lot of breaking news, snark, comedy, and sometimes he just, he's just mean to people, and we appreciate that. So we're proud that Caleb is with us. So this week on the RedState Weekly Briefing, we are going to be talking about a few different things. We're going to be talking about ISIS and climate change and Ebola and how all three of those are linked. It's really, really quite something. You'll be surprised. But also, before we get into that, there's been a lot of movement in the last week in the different polls for the horse race for the Senate. We right now, the way Real Clear Politics has it showing, there's 46 which we can say are Republican, and then there's 9 toss-ups, and then there are 45 seats that are currently likely Dem or lean Dem, or are completely safe and not at risk. So there was a YouGov poll that was just put out today that actually has shaken things up quite a bit, shown a lot of movement in different places, and it shows some Republican weaknesses in places like Kansas. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Joe first on this and have him start running through this. And Joe, before you get into it, I want to just read these off real quick. The 9 toss-up states that are listed on RCP are Alaska, Arkansas, Colorado, Georgia, Iowa, Kansas, Louisiana, New Hampshire, and North Carolina. How many of those states does this poll touch on?
Let's see. The YouGov poll shows it shows basically everything that's up for grabs in terms of the election this year. And of the ones you mentioned, it is showing. Let's see. In North Carolina, it's showing Kay Hagan up +1. In Iowa, it's showing Bruce Braley up 1. In Colorado, it's showing Mark Udall up 3. Let's see, what are the other really close ones? Arkansas, Tom Cotton up +4. Louisiana, it gives 2 results there because Louisiana is stupid and does things way late in the year. So it shows Mary Landrieu up in the primary +4, but Bill Cassidy up +6 in the runoff, which will be in December, which means that we get an extra month of ads because we here in the state hate our citizens. Let's see, the Kansas one you mentioned.
Let me break in there for a minute, Joe. The way you guys do things down in Louisiana is ridiculous. You basically have a primary and then another primary and then the actual real general election a month after the real general election is supposed to occur. So it's like Democrats can continually get another bite at the apple in elections down there in Louisiana. It's absolutely ridiculous. I wanted to throw that in before we went too far. But go ahead with the analysis, Joe.
Let's see. The Kansas one, which I think is just fascinating because the results from basically all the polling of the last few weeks, it's all over the place, but none of it in the Republicans' favor. The quote-unquote Democratic independent.
This is both for the governor's race and the Senate race. Is that correct? As far as the negative, the bad.
This is from. Well, the YouGov poll actually shows that Pat Roberts and Orman are tied, but that is the only time that Pat Roberts is getting anywhere close in any of the polling out of that state. Right now, Orman, according to Real Clear Politics, is averaging about 5.6 above Roberts. And like we were discussing before we came on the air, the weird thing is that Pat Roberts' misfortune seems to be affecting the governor's race there too, where it's Brownback versus Davis. And right now, Davis, according to the NBC News Marist poll, is up +1 over Brownback. So I think that it might be the case that Pat Roberts is bringing down the entire Republican ticket in that state, which is not a good situation.
Right.
Like I said,
well, I mean, we've had cases of negative coattails before, and it can jack up not just a Senate race or a governor's race, but it can jack up the entire state legislature races as well, and really take a state out of play for a while if we don't watch it. So, Kansas is one of those places where there's been a lot of shenanigans. First, we had the shenanigans in the Republican primary and the scorched earth campaign that was run there by the NRSC and Roberts against the conservative challenger. And then we also had the Democrat candidate basically drop out and have his name removed from the ballot when it shouldn't have been, and no replacement put forth, even though there should have been. And we have this guy Orman, who is claiming to be an independent, and everybody knows at the end of this he's going to come out and he's going to caucus with the Democrats no matter what. So it should be a safe Republican seat, and we're now at a point to where we're trying to defend it because of the poor choices that were made early on in the campaign.
Aaron, you don't know he's going to caucus with the Democrats. He may change. You don't know that.
Oh, right, yes. I have no crystal ball, so I don't know for sure that he's going to caucus with the Democrats, but I'm pretty sure every other independent, socialist, Democrat, whatever, is caucusing with the Democrats in the Senate.
So what he's written checks to Democrats like 87.3% of the time. So what?
Well, yeah, that doesn't mean anything. Just because he puts all of his money behind Democrats, toes the Democrat line, and won't come out and say that he won't definitively caucus with the Democrats, there's no reason to think he wouldn't caucus with Republicans. I mean, come on.
Well, let me throw some, because we talked about this little pre-show. You guys said that maybe it's Roberts bringing Brown back down. Generally, it's the other way around. The guy who is in the state, the governor who's in the state all the time, generally, those politicians have an effect down the ticket. So why is it that Brownback is not bringing Roberts down and vice versa? I mean, have you guys seen anything specific to that?
Well, I think here's the thing with Brownback. The reason that there's a little bit of an issue with Brownback is he went aggressive and got tax cuts in an election year, basically, in an election cycle. And so that gave some fodder to others, and they haven't seen the positive aspect of those tax cuts take place yet. So that could be a little bit of the weariness with Brownback. As far as the role of Roberts and how it's really changed the whole Kansas race, Roberts didn't want to even be running again. He wanted to go ahead and go home and everything, and he was convinced to stay in just like others. There were decent candidates out there who in the primary could have taken him out. And honestly, the big issue with Roberts is that he just doesn't live in Kansas. He lives in D.C., and the people of Kansas know that, and they would rather have someone, even if it's apparently they would rather have someone, even if it's an independent Democrat, represent them because that person actually lives in the state. I think that residency issue hit a nerve with a lot of people, and it's powerful.
Is Robert sharing a basement apartment with Thad Cochran?
I don't know. I don't know if Roberts and Cochran and all the others are getting there together and having parties. I don't know, but I certainly don't want any pictures to come to light if they exist. It's on you, Joe. Analyze that.
This took a turn somewhere, and I blame Caleb. Also, I want to point out that Red State's resident supervillain Republican Mitch McConnell is up +6, according to this YouGov poll. So there's that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's really... Oh, I did want to mention Georgia real quick, in that it looks like David Perdue's probably going to come out with a win right now. I think he's averaging about 3 to 4 points ahead of Michelle Nunn. But in terms of statewide races in Georgia, really the one to look at is the governor's race, where the grandson of former President Jimmy Carter is running against the incumbent Governor Nathan Deal. And that one's kind of a back and forth. That one's a toss-up right now. It's really difficult to tell which way it's going to go. My instinct is that no southern state is going to elect a non-incumbent Democrat in the year 2014. But that race could prove me wrong. I don't think it's going to happen, but if it does happen somewhere, that'll be the race.
Well, considering we're living through Jimmy Carter's second and third term on the national level, I'm not sure why anybody would think that electing a Carter is a good thing, even at a local level. But with that said, people are stupid sometimes. On the Georgia Senate race, I'm gonna just echo Eric here and say, I hopefully the people of Georgia will understand that Michelle Nunn's record of accomplishments is basically the same as her last name, and she's running on nothing more than heritage at this point, and on no real policies.
Bazinga!
Yeah, well, it happens. But okay, so as far as the horse race goes, that's pretty much it. I mean, the one showing Udall up 3 in Colorado, I'll probably take issue with that. I'd like to see what the makeup of the electorate is in that poll. But I think honestly, Cory Gardner is doing well, and it's still tight, but I think he's probably going to pull it off. Voting starts here in a couple weeks, and we have early voting, all mail. So the last bit of ads, I don't think it'll have as big of an impact as it may have had in previous cycles. So that one will come down to the wire, though, so it'll be interesting to watch. So let's go ahead and move on. What was that?
No, I want to hear about Michigan.
Oh, you wanted to hear about Michigan. That's right. Okay, Joe, tell us about Snyder. What's going on?
Your homeboy Snyder is averaging a few points ahead, according to Real Clear Politics, and I know that makes you oh so happy, LaDuke. Yes. So I figured I'd throw that your way, and I know that you're a big fan of Snyder, and I know that you're pulling for him. I know you're going door to door for him, doing the Lord's work and that.
Okay. The poll, because when you brought this up, midweek about this, trying to give me a heart attack, the very same polling firm that did this poll in August and had him up 2 or even, the Snyder campaign came out and said it's garbage, it's not right, it's stupid. And now that they have him up 6, oh my God, this is the greatest polling firm that's ever been invented.
That's the nature of polling.
I know it is. But it's like all of a sudden, what their methodology changed all of a sudden? I really hope this guy goes down in a flaming bag of turd.
A flaming bag of turd. I love that expression. I mean, I've seen a couple campaigns go down in a flaming bag of turd.
Oh yeah.
It's something, And speaking of, watching campaigns go down in a flaming bag of turd, in 2006, that's all we did. That's all Republicans did. And, there's a lot of chatter that Democrats this time are going through their own personal 2006, especially on the Senate side. We do see a couple left-wing campaigns falling down in a flaming bag of turds as well. So, it comes around and it goes around. Always remember that.
Their 2006 was 2010.
No, because they didn't lose the Senate in 2010. We lost everything in 2006.
Okay, but I mean, if it really was going to end up like that, I mean, what were we talking about? 60 days ago, that there was going to be this huge Republican wave. Now we're talking about what type of wave. We're not actually talking about that there's going to be a wave. It's. I mean, you're talking about Kansas is in play. What the blip in hell?
It's an anomaly. Kansas is an anomaly. It shouldn't even be in play. Okay, Kansas is a state where it should be a safe Republican Senate seat. They screwed up in the primary. They kept this guy Pat Roberts, who is a septuagenarian, who can't even remember the people who he met 15 minutes ago. He's an old fool. And, hopefully people elect him because we need him. But, even without him, we can still get to 51.
Oh, that's
but the NRSC wants you to make sure that you donate to save Pat Roberts' job.
He's an old fool. He's a septuagenarian who doesn't know who he's met. But hopefully we'll elect him, though. Well, the Senate needs some people that have Alzheimer's. That's what I'm saying.
Hey, as long as he votes what we tell him to vote once he's in there.
Listen, him and Thad.
You heard it here, folks. Aaron Gardner wants.
Hey, this is the general.
Puppets.
This is the general election.
Pat Roberts and Thad Cochran will keep bumping into each other and calling each other Judy. I mean, that's just how out of it they are.
You know, I hate when you share
Judy.
your fantasies.
It's horrible, isn't it?
All right. Well, you know, let me transfer into our next segment, which is actually becoming kind of a horse race issue here at the end of the election cycle, and that's ISIS. So this last week we've had another beheading or two. Since we last talked about ISIS, I believe there's been 3 different beheadings. We know that they're growing in strength. We know that we're at kinetic action with them or war of some sorts. But, you know, with what's going on with ISIS, I mean, they're taking over places in Iraq that have been traditionally Christian areas, like Mosul was Nineveh originally, and the Christians there are under attack, and they're being taken out. They're taking out people all over where they are, and our response still hasn't been that great. We still aren't really leading in the world and defeating ISIS. We're pretty much in a volley where we don't really care what's happening, and I don't understand why we're not doing more with this, why we're not willing to go in and defeat these people. Joe, I see you laughing, so I'm going to let you start.
Oh, I was laughing at a tweet. Somebody has submitted to us a suggestion that LaDuke actually owns a Snyder cheerleading outfit, including pom-poms. Thank you very much for the Twitter interaction, Pope Sparkles. We appreciate it. If you want to tweet with us, you can tweet using the hashtag RSWB. Isn't ISIS, like, right now, like, at Baghdad's back door, basically? Like, aren't they, like, right there now? Isn't that what the news is? And we've just kind of started hitting them again?
Yeah, basically, they're back. They're in the green zone. I mean, I lived in the green zone for like 8 months, and they're there. And this is insane. This is a place that we had fortified. We built a huge embassy complex, you know, and they've just come in and they've taken over. There are people who are fighting in the Iraq army who are dropping their arms when ISIS comes and joining ISIS because of the pay disparity. It's absolutely ridiculous, and we're seeing these places fall, and I think people are kind of, you know, wondering what we're doing about it. Even though we had the big speech by Obama come out and say we're going to defeat them, what's been done? What are we actually doing? These airstrikes, from what we understand, they're not even taking out the people that they claim that they take out. The Khorasan group apparently didn't even get taken out, which they were some big deal that we had never heard of a week ago.
I'm just wondering at this point when the administration is going to stop pretending to actually know what the hell it's doing.
Well, I don't think that they'll ever go. I don't think this administration will ever stop acting like they know what they're doing. I mean, even in the stuff we saw this last week with the Secret Service stuff, moments before the Secret Service agent head was sacked, we had the president coming out and saying that he had full confidence in her. So it's obvious that these people just are running this whole thing on a whim, and what they're telling to the public is often not what's going on inside. Now, I'm going to kind of segue into the next part of this, which is an article that was put up on the Huffington Post last week that said that ISIS was basically the fault of climate change. Now, Caleb, I think you highlighted this for me originally, And it turned into a big hashtag game on Twitter where we all made fun of climate change and said what could possibly be because of climate change. But Caleb, go ahead and talk to me a little bit about this article that was in the Huffington
ISIS
Post.
ISIS is because of climate change, because of the liberal desire to accept the premise that people who participate in the beheadings in Iraq are really just airing grievances that they have every right to be upset about. They're upset about poverty, they're upset about food, they're upset about poor growing conditions, they're upset about low income, they're upset about social injustice, and therefore they've taken it out in the form of beheading. And while Huffington Post thinks that's a very unfortunate choice, it doesn't mean that they don't accept their proposition that there is something unfair being done to them. And in this case, the unfair thing that's being done to them is that the industrialized West, and in particular the terrible Great Satan, the United States, is warming the planet through all of our our heathen use of electricity for movies and popcorn. And that's causing poverty in the Middle East, and therefore is the cause of ISIS.
Well,
see how neatly and logically that all lines up.
Yeah. Okay. So let me go into a little bit with you with this HuffPost article. Their main claim right up front is that the reason that ISIS is aggravated is because of a drought that has afflicted the Middle East between 2006 and 2010. Okay. So a drought that's 4 years over now. Is what has caused all this unrest.
I don't know why you even mentioned that it's been over for 4 years, because we're still griping about how they're getting us back for the Crusades, and I'm pretty sure that was considerably longer ago than 4 years.
That's true. So we won't matter.
That's my understanding from Twitter, is that the Crusades were a little longer ago than 4 years.
Right. Well, if it's over 100 years, Ezra Klein doesn't even think we need to know about it. So, but
and if it's over 6 years ago, he doesn't know about it.
Right, exactly.
Because the world started with.
But the second point they make in this Huffington Post article, and I'm going to read this one verbatim because it absolutely cracks me up, and I have an answer to his question. He says, if more Americans knew how glacial melt contributes to catastrophic weather in Afghanistan, potentially strengthening the Taliban and imperiling Afghan girls who want to attend school, would we drive more hybrids and use millions fewer plastic bags?
He really says
How would elections and legislation be influenced? So now this is a classic liberal canard. It's for the children. Now it's for the whole country of Afghan. You got to get rid of plastic bags because it causes terrorism. It's amazing that they make these jumps, and people don't call them out for the frauds, phonies, and hucksters that they are. And the first thing that they go to is government force to get rid of cars, to get rid of plastic bags.
Yes, but government force to get rid of terrorists, that's bad.
Well, and the thing is what they want to do, they want to enforce a behavior. They want to enforce a specific culture. And they're basically claiming that Christians are like the Taliban. Well, the Christians aren't the one trying to enforce a specific behavior on people. That's ISIS and Democrats. Apparently, from what I can see.
They're modern-day flat earthers. It's what they are. That's ridiculous. That's not even. That's really not even worth commenting on. That's just pointing and laughing at.
You're going to have to, though, because that's going to be more and more common of a theme. When we were in Detroit, the three of us, that was one of the things that they were pushing very strongly at the Netroots, was this idea of cross-pollination between all their different causes, how everything in the world can be related back to social justice, with enough rationalization and stupidity.
Right. Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I just want to say, if you guys are watching on YouTube page or if you're watching on the event page, depending, there's a feature called Showcase. It looks like 2 tickets. In that area, all the links that we're talking about today are going to be in there. The YouGov link is in there. The ISIS post on Huffington Post is on there as well. So do please make sure to go to the event page and check out the Showcase app so that you can see the links that we're talking about. Also, since I'm talking about, if you want to hit the Q&A app, you can ask us questions live on the event page through that as well. But
I went to that. I could not figure out how to use that myself. On that event page, I didn't see any way of submitting a question.
You are from the South, so I mean, it's difficult. I understand, and it's
Plus,
Google. It's Google also. It's Google Plus, so it's kind of janky. But what it is when you go to the event page and you actually click play for them to see the Google Hangout playing live, there'll be options up top, like Google has their regular grid thing where you have maps and documents and all that. Well, it's the same basic thing on the events page. You have that, and then there's the Showcase, which looks like tickets, and a Q&A, which is a Q&A. So you can go there if you want and ask us questions, and we'll talk more about this ISIS and global.
I didn't really ask for your life story. I mean,
well, hey, I'm trying to host.
I tuned you out about 30 minutes into that explanation of how to use Google Plus. I zoned out.
So so we have the ISIS. And we have the climate change, and we have those working together as a catalyst for Earth's destruction right now. I want to throw in one more thing. Let's go ahead and throw in Ebola. I mean, obviously, we got to be able to blame Ebola on climate change somehow. I'm not quite sure how yet, but I'm sure the left and scientists will figure out a way to claim that Ebola is caused by climate change, and that the increase in outbreaks is also caused by climate change, rather than an administration who doesn't care, who's taken away restrictions and regulations on how we go about making sure that diseased people don't come into our country. I don't know. Maybe it is climate change, and it's not just the incompetence of government in our nation and in others. Now, LaDuke, I want to come over to hear you with this for a minute, and then I want to go to Caleb, because Caleb's going to have more news on this Ebola stuff. But in your opinion, as someone from Detroit, would it help if you guys got Ebola?
Ouch. Wow. Jeez, Pete. Aaron Gardner.
Well, I'm just saying. I already went on record saying that the fact that it's in Texas, I mean, it's incredible. The Democrats will stop at nothing to turn that state blue. But back to you at Detroit. I don't think Texas deserves it. That's all I'm saying.
Texas deserves.
Basically, Aaron's trying to say he doesn't like you, LaDuke.
Yeah, that's pretty much what he is.
Well, no, it's basically, look.
No, it's fine. You don't like him. It's fine. You don't like his hat. You don't like his facial hair. You just don't like him.
Texas deserves Ebola because Rick Perry will wrestle it to the ground and kick its ass.
Actually, Rick Perry will probably shoot it while he's on a jog.
Yeah, my governor will try to reason with it and talk to it, and all while wearing a diaper and soiling himself.
All I'm going to say is having Ebola in Texas is a matter of national importance. And the reason why is because without Texas' economy, we'd still be having less employment than we did after the meltdown of the financial sector and the crash and our little Great Recession that we had. So we need Texas. We can't have them all zombie land on us.
Just for the record, Joe and I would like to distance ourselves from all of this conversation about Detroit deserving Ebola and anybody wearing diapers.
Yeah. Well, it's the diapers part you guys can't.
I'm sorry. The diapers belong to one of our Republican senators down here. That's something.
Two of them actually that we know of. So we I'm not as freaked out about this as everybody else seems to be. Okay, it's there are methods in place. Whether the government does.
What does everybody else mean?
There's a lot of people that are freaked out about this. There are a lot of people. You remember when the doctors
call us those people?
Okay, right. You people. When the doctor came over from from serving working in West Africa, and it was like, why are they bringing him here? It's pretty much locked down. I mean, if somebody really wanted to sneak Ebola over into the country, they've already done it through Mexico.
Somebody did sneak Ebola into the country. He's in Dallas.
That's exactly what happened. Here's the thing, Thomas. Here's the thing.
He didn't.
Hold on,
No,
guys. Wait. Don't make me mute you, Thomas. Check it out. Here's the thing, though. This is the problem. Our government is incompetent, and it relies on the honor system for a guy coming from a Liberia to be honest and say, no, I came in no contact with no dead people and no Ebola. You know, and the guy lied, and he just came on over. We should have people from the CDC in these countries at these airports looking for some signs and symptoms.
Okay, but there were no signs.
There were no signs. And look, you're not going to lock it down no matter what you do. I mean, if you were coming back from Liberia and you had contact with somebody, but you felt fine, what are you going to do? You're going to get yourself stuck at the airport, or are you going to go home and say, no, I didn't see anybody? Of course you're going to lie.
I mean, okay, so they had that plane yesterday that landed in Newark that 2 people threw up on. The CDC was right there, quarantined the whole plane, took the people off, immediately went through a rush testing. Okay, I mean, you're not going to lock this down. And so they have protocols in place.
You just said it was locked down. We can play the tape back. You said we've got this stuff locked down.
They can't get it 100% locked down, okay? But they did with this instance with this plane.
Here's the thing. You know, you can't take a dog to Hawaii without it being put into a quarantine. Now, there's nothing wrong with dogs. You know, there's nothing that's specifically about dogs coming from anywhere that's going to make Hawaii flip out and go crazy. But there are a few cases where there's a dog that has a disease that will introduce something to the native population that they don't want.
Okay.
Now, we have cases where we know exactly where this disease comes from. We know the genesis. If you're in one of those places and we have planes that are flying here from there, we should have something front line out there to work this.
What is it?
I mean, I know we're not going to get everything done every time. We're not going to catch every single one. But heck, I'd be willing to say that if you're going to fly from one of those countries, maybe you have to submit a blood test to get into the United States.
But do you have to wait? Well, why not wait? Make them wait 15, 20 days. Why not set up?
Because the Ebola, it only takes 4 hours. It only takes 4 hours from the time they sample your blood to the time they know if you have Ebola. It takes 4 hours.
I'm
not familiar with
that's
this.
Even in the incubation period, they can find it in your blood. The only thing about the incubation period is that there's no visible signs. That's the thing.
Yeah, but the blood test takes 4 hours.
Yeah, which is nothing. I mean, I've been stuck at an airport for 4 hours for much less than having Ebola.
Well, obviously, once you get 1,000 people getting tested and mixed bureaucracy in there, it's going to take longer than 4 hours. But the medical process is 4 hours.
Well, and how many people do we actually have coming from Liberia and other places where this is prevalent? I doubt there's that many.
Look, the bottom line is it's going to be it's time to resort to cannibalism.
Enough, evidently.
This is Mad Max times. It's all over but the crime. You're done for.
Well, you know, yeah, that's the ultimate bushmeat right there, right? Cannibalism.
Oh.
I don't know what that is.
Well, they say that bushmeat is one of the major causes of Ebola spreading originally, is people going out and eating bats and stuff like that. Bushmeat.
Kind of gross.
Bushmeat. I've never heard that term before.
Well, you haven't read enough about Ebola then. It's in the Wikipedia.
Right, so basically then, and so this is what you want.
I haven't read enough about Ebola at Wikipedia. I'm sorry I didn't get into your scholarly Wikipedia treatise.
So you want the government then to set up testing facilities for people that want to fly into the United States.
Well, a lot of people just want to quarantine incoming flights from those nations. That's what a lot of people want to do.
But this guy came in from a different country, and you have a ton of people out there that they could fly in from Europe, that they've been trapped, whatever. So you still, I mean, so what is the solution then? Because you're talking about basically in a world economic economy.
I think that the Illuminati should go ahead and release the cure.
Well, they might.
I'm tired of them sitting on it.
Well, the scary thing is if they
why don't we contact Alex Jones and find out if he can put a call in?
Well, here's the thing that I've been trying to find out, and I was hoping to have this for this show, but I've been trying to reach a particular person at the hospital in Texas and the media contact at the CDC for hours now to find out there was a story on Reuters that said that they were not using experimental treatments for Duncan, for the infected Ebola patient in Dallas. That they weren't using experimental treatments, which I'm trying to find out if they are classifying survivor serum as experimental, because the World Health Organization about a month ago said that they were going to start experimenting with survivor serum, which is a blood-derived serum. It's made from the blood of survivors of Ebola to treat and inoculate people that don't have it or have been exposed to it, or even treat people who have it. And I want to find out, are they using that on Duncan in Texas? Because as long as we're talking about what we're doing on the front lines, it seems to me one of the things we ought to be doing is figuring out what's an effective treatment pretty quickly. Because even if we manage to keep it out of the United States, there's still people dying by the thousands every single day from this outbreak in countries around the globe, and in particular in Africa. And I think we ought to be figuring out a way to maybe stop that wholesale slaughter of mankind.
And, the numbers that have been updated from the CDC, I heard this on Fox, I think it was yesterday, they said a number like 1 point some odd million who are going to be affected from this
by Christmas.
By Christmas, yes.
Yeah. That's if it continues at the same rate. Last month, the CDC announced that we could see 20,000 infections by the 1st of November, and everybody was like, holy cow, that's really bad. It is October 5th, and we're already at 22,000 cases. 22,000 infections. So we're way ahead of it, and if it stays at that rate, then we're definitely looking at a large number by Christmas.
Well, and the thing is once they make these projections, and once they start edging out of this projection, it's not like, oh, okay, well, they said 20,000, we have 22,000 now, so we're just barely above projection. That's not how it works.
We're not just barely, though. It was the end of the month, the end of October, they were looking at 20,000. It's the beginning of October, and we're already at 22, so it's well above their initial estimate.
Well, and not only is it well above, but when you think about this, it's an exponential disease.
Right.
So for every one person who gets it, you have two more who gets it. So if the projection goes from 20,000 to 40,000 is what you actually have, that changes the long-term projections exponentially going out, and that's how you get to like 1.4 million people being affected by December, which is, that's a scary number. That's like we'd classify that as a genocide if it was a military doing it.
I'll tell you what bugs me is all the people who keep saying, that are trying to be the voice of reason. There's nothing to worry about. There's nothing to be afraid of. Nobody's going to get it here. There's been one case. That's such limited thinking. Again, that's just here. There are other countries in the world, and there are people that are getting infected every single day. There are people that are currently getting infected and dying. People's family members, fathers, mothers, children are dying every single day. And to say there's nothing to worry about, you're just talking about there's nothing to worry about in Chicago or Dallas. That doesn't mean there's nothing to worry about.
Overseas. Right. And the president took a lot of heat when he sent 3,000 troops over to whatever country it was to help set up facilities to help treat this. And I was like, why is anybody bitching about this? We're actually trying to help people over there and prevent the spread of it. Isn't that what we're supposed to do?
I think the primary complaining about that was that he sent more troops to go help Liberia with this outbreak than he sent to go deal with ISIS, which is a weird argument to make. But
it's a totally weird argument.
The guy sucked. I think this was on Fox News Sunday last weekend, and Krauthammer was talking about it. And basically Obama said that he felt like the United States military was uniquely capable of handling the threat in Liberia. And I believe Krauthammer said at that time that, or maybe it was Britt Hume actually, he said that the United States military is definitely uniquely equipped to fight ISIS, so why aren't we sending the same amount for that? Now, for myself personally, I live in Colorado Springs. If you don't know, that's where Fort Carson is. That is where a majority of these soldiers are coming from. So myself, I have worries. It's a community that I know. They attend the church that I go to, and I have worries that these guys are going to go there and something's going to happen, and one of them's going to get hurt. Maybe their family gets infected. You never know. I hope and pray that the military does all the proper procedures and puts them in quarantine when they go and when they come back, and that they all remain safe and come back healthy.
Well, I'm trying not to keep arguing.
And that they're able to make a positive influence while they're over there.
I'm trying not to keep arguing with LaDuke.
It certainly is troubling that we can commit so many soldiers to Liberia for this, but we just sit back and blame climate change for ISIS and don't bother to commit the soldiers to that. So it is a frustrating thing.
Yeah, but I'm trying not to keep arguing with you, LaDuke, but I do wonder, I mean, I wouldn't take it for granted that sending troops is necessarily the best thing. Certainly it might be. That's worth looking into. But I wouldn't just take it for granted, yes, sending in the military is the way to go. I mean, sending in doctors, private organizations sending in doctors, the World Health Organization sending in people, us supporting an operation that's being spearheaded by the UN or the WHO doesn't seem totally out of the realm of being reasonable either. It's not necessarily the case that sending 3,000 members of the military when we're supposed to be committed to the operation in Iraq and Syria is necessarily the way to go.
Well, and another thing that's interesting...
Well, I'm asking LaDuke, though, not you, Aaron.
Listen, we're on the same page. We're on the same page here. We should be doing more over there to help squash it, not just because we don't want it to come here, but because it's a humanitarian thing. It's the right thing to do. All right. Now, the United States military is uniquely positioned, though, to go and to be able to build things very quickly, get things up to be able to help these people out. Better so than any other entity on the globe right now. So I'm sorry.
That's why we were the #1 rebuilding force after the tsunami.
Were we? I don't know.
Yeah. 2004, right?
Okay.
We're almost always the #1 rebuilding force. That's what we do. We go through. We help out everybody in the world, and we do it without any thought about how it's going to help or hurt us in the long term. Honestly.
That doctor and nurse that were over there were with Samaritan's Purse, which is a private organization. Okay, they were partnering with other groups, I would imagine. So yeah, I'm all for
Samaritan's Purse is a great organization, just for the record.
Yeah, it is. It honestly is. And these people were doing.
Doesn't Samaritan's Purse don't they also operate a health plan that's ACA that's outside of Obamacare?
I've never heard that. I've only heard of their relief efforts. They were a major part of the relief effort in Haiti.
I may be thinking of the wrong group then. Anyhow, but hey, also on the Ebola thing, I want to let you all know Pope Sparkles on the Twitters at Beautifly Wings. She lets us know that Farrakhan came out and said that Ebola only attacks black people. So our crusty white panel is safe, apparently. So that's
the doctor and the nurse were white. See that
Farrakhan is a scientist, so he knows.
Oh, is he?
No,
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna.
Isn't all science attributable to Islam? Anyhow, the great reign of Islam brought science to the masses. Isn't that how it happened, Caleb?
That is what I hear. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, all science, history, and learning.
Pretty sure they invented the stars too, right?
In fact, we would already be on Mars if it weren't for the Christian Crusades.
Well, yeah. Neil deGrasse Tyson would be the first president of Mars if it weren't for the Crusades.
Don't be absurd. That's ridiculous. It would be a prime minister.
Oh, that's right. It would be a prime minister. That's true. We've kind of gone off the rails here, so let's go back to the ISIS Ebola climate change debate here once again. And
you know what sent us off the rails?
Probably me.
Global warming. Global warming is the reason that we got off the rails.
That is the reason. Just like Katy Perry's popularity, climate change is the reason for us going off the rails. but LaDuke, I want to go back to what you were saying about this Ebola, and that we're not gonna, it's not gonna. You don't have to worry, and this and that and the other
I'm
thing.
not saying you don't have to worry. I'm not painting in this broad pastel or whatever. I'm saying that look, it's not something that I think that we should be like all flipped out about. The government does stuff horribly, but they do have protocols in place. All right, and until those fail, then we have to go and put some boots up some butts.
Well,
all right?
Here's the thing, though.
Well, I think that there's an argument that some of it has failed. He shouldn't have been sent home from the hospital, and
but he lied.
Well, he didn't lie when he went to the hospital. He just told them what his symptoms were.
They said stomach bug, and they sent him back, and he was like 4 days with no.
He didn't tell them where he had been.
He told them he had been to Liberia. Yeah.
Yes, he did.
Okay, see, I read that he didn't.
He just didn't say he had been exposed to Ebola, but
I read that
he told them that he had come in from Liberia, and then they sent him home.
Okay, if that's true, yeah, that's a mess up. All right, and now hospitals.
That's the fear. That's the fear is that it is a mess up. Now, the other side of the equation is that now there are things that the government is doing, the CDC is doing, and the international community are doing to come together and try to get this under control. Now, what I've heard on the news is that they're about 3 months behind the ball on this, and that they should have been ramping all this stuff up earlier because they knew that it was going to do these things. Now, what pisses me off about the people saying there's nothing wrong, and I know that this isn't you, LaDuke, but I'm using you as a stalking horse for other people who I know. The people who insist that there's nothing to worry about, everything's calm, remain calm. A lot of them are like, oh, well, science says this does this. This is how this virus is created. This is how it can be destroyed. It just can't do that. Well, you know what? People who continually yell science in my face are typically wrong most of the time.
You don't like Thomas Dolby.
Well, I don't like anybody who insists, who uses science, the word science, as a substitute for actual real argument and discussion. It pisses me off. I mean, I understand that Ebola is an RNA chain, and if it's exposed to sunlight, it can die quickly because it doesn't have a protein cover that keeps it
also
safe.
If you hold a cross up to it, it shies away. If you throw holy water on it,
garlic. Olive oil is very useful in this instance. Bless the olive oil as well.
But how did you know any of that? I mean, that's an interesting question because I didn't know any of that. That if it's the
you learned it from Wikipedia, weren't you listening?
Oh, I did.
I'm sorry. Neil deGrasse Tyson told me that I have nothing to fear from Ebola, and so did Vox. Which all of these put together make me fear the hell out of it. Because these guys are all notoriously wrong, and when they say the science is settled on something, it's never settled.
That's right.
Now we have the CDC, the World Health Organization, all these people coming together to fast track a cure, to fast track a vaccine. Now, to me, the first thing that comes to my mind is, okay, you got a bunch of geeky scientists in there with one of the most deadly diseases on Earth, and they're going to start tinkering with it. And the next thing you know, it's going to be a super virus that is airborne and takes out a whole continent of people in a matter of a month. And that's what freaks me out. Because somebody's going to mess up.
I can't do with that.
Which continent are we wiping out? That's the important thing here.
Well, the United States is never mentioned in Revelation, so let's just go with that.
They did that with AIDS, Aaron, and it didn't quite work out like they wanted.
Are we going to get into AIDS trutherism now? Is that what we're going to do?
I don't know. I don't know what to do with that.
Speaking of trutherism, since we're on this point, we're almost out of time on the show anyhow. We got about 10 minutes left in this show, and this has to do with ISIS. So I'm going to blame this on climate change since it's related to ISIS, and we'll go with that. But a well-known person, Naomi
Jackson.
No, I'm forgetting the last name right now.
What?
She worked with Clinton in '96, and she's one of the leaders of third wave feminism. Naomi Wolf. Naomi Wolf is an ISIS truther. She doesn't believe that ISIS really exists and that they're beheading people. She actually made a claim on Facebook that it all looks staged and that it'd be so easy to stage. So, you know, I don't know. Maybe fire can't melt ISIS. I'm not sure.
Wait, Wag the Dog moment? That movie from the early 90s?
We know the movie.
Well, I don't... Caleb, you don't watch movies that don't involve cartoons. I didn't know. No reason to, you know, get like that.
Zombie movies.
Well, they got cartoon zombie movies. Don't act like that.
They have cartoon zombie movies?
Response? I thought that we get a better response. You guys are weak right now. Are you guys all asleep? Do you need coffee?
No,
I was actually watching the news, so I missed like half of what y'all just said.
No, I don't get it. I'm just confused here.
I mean,
because you're afraid that the scientists are gonna like mutate this thing into like it's gonna be like Godzilla, okay? And it's gonna tear up Las Vegas. And believe me, when anybody threatens Las Vegas, I get pissy. So now I'm pissed right now, and I'm confused, and I don't know.
You sound like the horse that wasn't worried about the car. Now he doesn't have a job.
Well, yeah, he does. He's sitting out on Stevie J. Westfield horse farms out there in Montana having a great time.
Or glue.
But, you know, here's my thing, okay? People have been saying, okay, here's the deal. You wash your hands, when you go to the bathroom, and you know, use soap and water, and you know, avoid direct contact with this and that and the other thing, and you're going to be good to go. Now, here's my problem. Have any of these people ever been to a nightclub?
Oh.
I mean, modern day nightclub. Have they ever gone out and seen what happens?
What you're talking about is the hubris of the scientific community, and assuming that everybody else is going to do the things that they think they ought to do. If a scientist says this is totally easy to contain, if you just take steps 1 through 7, here's a note for you: people aren't going to take step 1, much less step 7. People don't do it. They're not going to do it. People are unsafe and messy, and that's the world. You can't go around as a scientist holding a press conference saying, well, if we just... It's not going to happen, jackhole.
Well, all it takes is one college guy to get this. And he's going to have a sniffle, and he's going to be like, oh, I got a cold, but it's Friday night. Let me take 3 shots and go party and get laid. And that's what's going to happen. And then from there, you got a whole college campus that's dead.
Why do you hate having fun?
It's the devil. Fun is the devil.
If it can go airborne and different ways like the flu, yeah, I'd be a little more panicked about this. But generally,
nobody's asking you to panic.
Well, no, I mean, but I know a lot of people that they're really panicked about this. I mean, they were freaking out that they brought this doctor over in a hermetically sealed plane.
Well, let me tell you this, LaDuke. Knowing Americans as you complacent, if you had to choose between the two, wouldn't you rather a bunch of people who were panicked and taking too much precaution as opposed to people who didn't give a crap and weren't taking any? Which one would you prefer? The guy at the nightclub with the sniffles who pretends nothing's wrong? The guy who flies in from Liberia and doesn't think it's important to report to customs because it's fine, he doesn't feel too bad? Or would you rather the person who's freaking out and saying, okay, I think I'm dying?
I would, if they feel that they're sick, I'd rather them go get checked. Okay, yeah.
There you go.
All right.
Now,
so that's fine, but that's not the issue. All right.
No, it is the issue because here's the thing: we're being told that we can't talk about Ebola because it's racist and stuff like that. Now, what I'm saying is, if anybody comes into an ER and they have the sniffles, the first question I'd want asked: have you been to anywhere in Africa? Yes or no?
Okay, but I have a question. If it's so hard to transmit, difficult to catch, why are there 22,000 people infected with it? Why are there so many dead bodies? If it's that hard, if it's that impossible, if the idea of an outbreak is totally laughable, why is there an outbreak?
The bottom line is it's not that difficult to get, depending on the conditions in which you live in. And people like to be, it's this arrogance.
Okay, but are you telling me that because you live in Africa, you're generally you handle vomit every day because you live in Africa?
Well, no, and that's the thing. It's this arrogance that America's a first world nation. We have running water and clean streets. And well, first of all, no, we don't. Let's go back to Detroit. Every day I woke up and walked outside, it smelled like vomit. Same thing in New Orleans. Every day I woke up, walked outside, New Orleans.
Vomit.
Okay,
Yeah, but
New Orleans.
you really need to start staying in better hotels, Aaron.
Yeah, it didn't smell like vomit. But there is no
I think this may be a function of you being super cheap.
That
No,
could
all
be,
of
that
New
could
Orleans-
be part of it.
Guys,
But you know
guys,
what? Here's the thing. Our nation, while clean, is filled with dirty people. Dirty, nasty, booger-eating people who will totally pick their nose and come over and shake your hand.
You hear that, America? You're dirty people. You do not measure up to Aaron's standards.
you booger picking
Booger eaters.
evil bastages. What is the matter with you?
I'm just saying, for the love of
You
God, people,
filthy,
get yourself
filthy
some
Americans.
Purell, all right? Get yourself some Purell. Take a bath every once in a while. And wash your hands. Wash your hands.
Aaron
Right.
Gardner, spokesperson for Purell, is telling you how not to catch it during the 2014-2015 winter flu
Look,
season.
there was a song. There was a song back in the 80s. It was a PSA announcement.
Oh, God, I don't know if I want to hear the rest of this story.
It went on the TV, and it went like this. Wash your hands after going to the bathroom. Wash your hands after cleaning baby too. Because you don't want to catch hepatitis. And you don't want hepatitis to catch you. We need to update
Okay,
that.
listen, that was just something your parents sang to you. That's not a real song. Your
Is
parents
this
just didn't trust you, yeah.
is the show over? Is that what just
Yeah.
happened?
It's not over yet. We got 1 minute left.
Everybody remembers being a kid and your mom coming into the room and telling you that you're going to get hepatitis because you're a disgusting little boy. And she would summon the floating head of death by knocking 3 times.
All right, let me leave you with this. This one's a little bit better. It's my special Ebola rendition of My Sharona. All right? She's my little puking one, a puking hun. Ain't no bleeding fever run, my Ebola.
Well, guys, this has been a great run. I think the show is had a good time, and I'll whatever happens next week, it will happen, and it's been good knowing you guys.
Oh my God! Holy
Hey, Thomas.
crap! Yeah.
Why don't you go ahead and collect yourself there for a minute and go ahead and run some bumper music lightly in the background. We'll go around the table and tell everybody.
I had to
where
wash my ears out with soap.
Caleb had to go wash his hands so he could, avoid hepatitis.
Oh my God! Oh, you want me to tell you where I'm from?
Yep.
Hey, you can contact me, Ebola free, at Irish Duke 2 on Twitter and LaDuke at FTRradio.com.
All right, Joseph, tell us where you're at.
Find me at RedState. Find me on Twitter at Josie_Esquire, and find me on Snapchat at SexyMama69. That's 3 X's.
Triple X?
Caleb,
wow.
where can we find you?
Wow.
I don't know who this Caleb is. I'm Aaron Gardner, and you can find me at redstate.com. I'm the one covered in vomit and hepatitis.
Or at the Purell factory, bathing in it.
All right. Hey, well, thank you all for coming and watching the Red State Weekly Briefing. I am your host, Aaron Gardner, managing editor of RedState.com. If you missed the show, well, you suck at life. We'll see you next time. Take care.
Oh, boy.
Where's the bumper music?
It was playing the whole time.